Greetings to my dear respected elders, my brothers and my sisters. Savage to Sage. If you like the content, be sure to like and subscribe. Share it with somebody that might find it beneficial. I want to talk a little bit about sex, drugs, rock and roll, the things of the world that we're constantly surrounding ourselves with, the bombardment of debauchery that keeps us dealing with and living in the things of the flesh versus the spiritual realm and the realm of submission to our Creator. Guidelines have been passed down since the beginning of time throughout all religious traditions, throughout all prophets, saints, and sages. And the reason that they've been passed down is to give us a basic understanding of discipline, as well as allow us to put discipline into practice. We cannot be spiritual beings and grow in our understanding of how to reconnect with the divine, the almighty creator above, if we don't have basic discipline. So I put a short out not long ago talking about if it feels good, do it. That's the way of Satanism. That's the Satanist anthem. And while that is true, I'll go a bit more in depth about that and explain that we are being blindsided by Satan, Shaitan, Beelzebub, whatever it is you want to call him, Iblis, all the names. We're being blindsided. We're living in a world right now where temptation is at an all-time high. Men cannot even turn on YouTube safe search and not be bombarded with some woman twerking. And likewise, women cannot turn on any search without something similar to that to encourage that type of behavior in them. And also, they have the added temptation of all these, I don't know what you would call them, these guys being on flex, these big ballers that they see going after these females, and they believe that that's what they have to do in order to get the proper attention and get the proper relationship status from the opposite sex or from the same sex. We're being bombarded with that too right now. To compound the situation tremendously, it doesn't seem that there are any it doesn't seem that there are any guidelines as to what we should or should not be learning, teaching our children, etc., etc. It's just anything goes, bro. So these disciplines have been around since the beginning of time. These religious traditions, and within them contains discipline. It contains routine. It contains various things. from the best of my understanding, which has served me well, the reason behind that is you cannot get to a place of spiritual excellence without first practicing some sort of abstinence. Okay? All the different prophets, saints, and sages, they all went through a testing period, a trial period. 30 days, 40 days, this, that, and the other. They were going to the desert. They were going to the wilderness. Muhammad, peace be upon him, sat in a cave and meditated. Whenever he received revelation, first revelation from Allah. Isa, Jesus, peace be upon him, he went into the desert and was tested, etc., etc. Silence and solitude are super important. They had to separate themselves from the things of the world at that time, during their time and their era, which were different, completely different than what we're going through these days. You know, they didn't have automobiles. They didn't have TikTok, Tinder, and YouTube. They didn't have Facebook and Fitnagram. You know, they didn't have that stuff. So, temptation still existed during the time. And they had to separate themselves from the world in order to reach their zenith with their spiritual understanding and what they believed to be their purpose, what ultimately was their purpose, sent from the Almighty Creator Himself. That only comes with sacrifice of some kind of giving up of worldly desires in search of the greater good. Muslims pray 5 times a day. Some people say, oh, that's a lot, that's too much, yada, 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 yada. Is it too much? Or is it the right amount? I personally believe it's the right amount. When you pray 5 times a day, as the hadith, the teaching of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, there's no way that soul can keep dirt on it. It's like living beside a river, and 5 times a day you go down to that river and you wash yourself. Well, there's no way that dirt can be on you. So it's a way to keep in constant connection with the Almighty Creator and keep the soul clean. So that's a form of discipline. I look around everywhere I go and I'm advertised to. I'm always being sold something. Whether it's McDonald's, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Marshalls, Ross, Ray's, Lulu's, whatever it is, I'm always being sold something. And you got to understand that even though you're not consciously taking these things in and recognizing them just as you drive by, pass by them, doesn't mean that you're not subconsciously or unconsciously taking these things in. You're still taking these things in. You're still being advertised to. You're still being sold something. That's why the signs are big and bold and very easy to see, because they will plant that seed within you. If you have given your kids fast food for a long time, and McDonald's seems to be the ultimate favorite for children, and if you've given it to them, you know as well as anybody else knows, all you have to do is get in your vehicle and drive past the big golden arches, and what happens? They immediately, with the can we go to McDonald's? Can we go to McDonald's? I want chicken nuggets and a Happy Meal. This, that, and the other. Because McDonald's has sold your children. And you have sold your children with the help of McDonald's. You've sold them on the flavor profile as well as the Happy Meal and the toys within, etc., etc. So they associate that with that. It would be a different story if every time they drove by the Golden Arches, something gave them electrical shock. They wouldn't be so hungry for McDonald's. They would learn to associate McDonald's with pain. That's the way our brains work. That's the way we're wired to work. So, anyway, we're sold advertising at all times, and we're always taking this in, both consciously as well as unconsciously. And this has an effect on the decisions that we make in our life. Where we go, where we shop, what we do. We become sort of mindless drones about it. We go there because that's where we go. Not because necessarily that's the best place, that's the best deal, etc., etc. It's just that's where we're supposed to go. Because that's what our brains have been wired to tell us to do. So with that being said, we have to start questioning things in life. We have to start questioning where we receive our information from. Okay? There's no way around it if you live in this world. You have to live in this world. And we live in the West, we live in a modern day society. We live in just a world of advertising. We're constantly sold sex. You turn on the TV in any capacity, you're sold sex. You turn on YouTube in any capacity, 9 out of 10 times, the algorithm knows you, and they recognize you, and they sell you sex. The same thing could be said about Hulu, about presidential elections, for goodness sakes. You look at Kamala Harris, she's got Megan Thee Stallion out there twerking on stage, trying to sell herself for an election. What type of mentality do you believe it takes for somebody in politics to use that type of advertising in order to try and appeal to the African American community, the Black American community? That's an insult to black people. I've heard many African American commentators and content creators talking about this, that they believe that that's an insult to their intelligence. They believe that she thinks that that's the only way to appeal to them as a community. And I think they're right. I think that they are correct. I believe that's exactly what her intentions were. That's exactly what she had in mind. And it's backfired. It's backfired. Because that's an insult. That's an insult. So, all of these sales, all of these sexual things, all of these different ideologies are being pushed on us around the clock. You have to be aware to it. Aware of it. You have to be ready to change your vision, what you see and what you hear. You gotta be willing to make the appropriate adjustments so that you do not fall prey to the traps and tricks of the shaitan, which are everywhere. They're not just here and there, they're all over the place. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. A sure pathway to the hellfire. Ask yourself, who do you serve? What do you expect? What do you want? The choice is yours. We've just been made to believe that we don't have a choice. But you have a choice.